Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Hong Kong is to celebrate its 25th anniversary of returning to China after 100 years of colonial rule by the British. Annie Wu is a strong advocate in Hong Kong SAR for patriotic education about China. She spoke out about that even during the most challenging times in recent years, despite outside pressure both to her and to her family members and family business in Hong Kong. When I talked to Annie recently, one can feel strongly her devotion to educating the youth in Hong Kong and making things right, as she said. Annie Wu, what a pleasure. Long time no see.
A long time no see too, Tian Wei. Like to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you. We haven't talked for quite a couple of years already. How the world has changed, Hong Kong as well. Now, Ms. Wu, the first question for you. The Chinese central authorities described the situation in Hong Kong over the past years as from chaos to the rules of law. Now, during that process, I know you personally and your family members went through a lot. In retrospect, what do you make of the experiences over the past few years?
Actually, before 2019, I predicted Hong Kong we would have trouble because when Hong Kong was returned to our motherland, 1997, I have spoken with, at that time, our chief executive, now the vice chair of CPPCC, Mr. Tong Chi-hua. That was, I think, on the 9th of July, 1997, because he met us, all the members of the CPPCC. And I suggested to Mr. Tong, I say, now we are no longer a colony, and we are now SAR of our country. I suggest we must do the first thing to let our young children, starting from kindergarten, to learn to sing the national anthem, to understand the national flag, and to recognize the flag, and to recognize they are Chinese nationals. I say, if we don't educate them now, 20 years from now, they will say they are not Chinese, they are Hong Kongers. And I said, there's going to be a big problem for us, and it's very hard for us to change the mindset by that time. And I also suggested to Mr. Dong at that time, I said, since we are going to recruit more civil servants, please, after they have been recruited, AOs or EOs, they should go to Tsinghua for a week or 10 days course, and then they should carry a knapsack bag to travel all around the country, starting from Heilongjiang all around to different provinces, and then ended the what we call the final destination in Shanghai. So if these future civil servants can have in their minds the whole country and where they have experiences, seeing is believing, then we are training our civil servants to know the country and to know how Hong Kong should be part of the country as an SAR.
Were your suggestions being adopted?
I think you can see what happened in 2019. We have adopted those suggestions. I don't think we have I will use the word riots, 2019. So you always see the results afterwards, not instantly. But I think I did not want to be a visionary, but that happened in Hong Kong.
So you thought things actually could be avoided earlier?
Could have been avoided if we started with training the young students about our country, and they are Chinese citizens, and we have to learn about Chinese history. So we never taught Chinese history properly in Hong Kong since Hong Kong was returned to our country. Less history to be taught than when I was studying in my primary school in Hong Kong during the colonial days. And I really decided that I should set up a school in Hong Kong in the year 2000, that we must insist we have Chinese history as a separate subject to be taught to the students. 10 years ago, I asked my good friend to write a book for me. He was a former principal of Hong Kong High School, Chinese history, because in Hong Kong, when I was studying history, I studied from 1840 to 1911. That was the period we just studied. After that, we are not allowed to study because at that time, the colonial system did not want to us to feel very, I will use the word patriotic. So I decided it's very important we need our young people and our teachers and our friends to understand Hong Kong. That from 1912 to 1949, how Hong Kong went through all these support to the country, and actually how our country, China, went through all the civil wars and all the, I would say, the attacks by the Japanese invasion and all these problems. And I actually did all this in English and Chinese. Chinese is also in 简体字, and then in 繁体字, because then we give it as what we call a reference book for the teachers and for the principals. And now I already get it done also in Spanish, because in Hong Kong we have a lot of foreigners who are Spanish speaking. So I think the more we spread about understanding the modern Chinese history from 1912 to 1949, the better it is for Hong Kong, the young people in Hong Kong and the teachers in Hong Kong understand how we have come through to the present day stability and prosperity since 1949, when we have what we call People's Republic of China. And now Hong Kong is enjoying all the fruits and the results since 1978.
Annie, there is a lot of discussion about the one country, two systems. After all, it's quite an experiment. There were beliefs that earlier too much emphasis on the two systems. However, over the past few years with the national security law, there were also others suggesting maybe too much emphasis on the one country. Now, to you, what is the right balance? How do you see these very different opinions in the discussion every day?
After 1997, 1st of July, I will use then the civil servants, because they have a direct transition. And those civil servants, they are good civil servants, but they have no understanding of one country. And they only try to say, protect Hong Kong under the two system. So they always try to ignore the one country. This has been a problem of our civil service in those days. Mr. Tung Chee-wan tried to talk about the one country, but I personally felt he was not listened to. So from 1997 until about, I would use the word 2017-18, those 20 years, a lot of the certain elitists in Hong Kong who promoted Western democracy, they're talking to the students in the school, talking about Western democracy, human rights, and universal suffrage. So they never talk about Hong Kong as part of our country, China. They never want to recognize Hong Kong because they still have the colonial mentality. They wanted Hong Kong to be part of the Western system. And this is incorrect, because under one country, two system, we are an SAR of our country. So that was very much ignored and put aside. And that happened and created the problems in 2003, 2013. And then eventually it blew up in 2019 with a lot of foreign forces supporting all this I will use the word uprising. And the students were the people who were being utilized to create all these riots. And the policemen suffered so much because the policemen were trying to hold on to the law and order. So since 2019, I think the civil service branch and our chief executive, they recognize without the support of central government, Hong Kong can never enjoy stability and prosperity.
Annie, you have a very strong mind and a very strong heart, trying to make a difference every day for the things that you believe are right. Thank you so much, Annie Wu, for joining us.